mail-order bride rejected for her size, until a lumberjack saw her as his perfect match. Martha had spent the last few months preparing for this moment. Her heart raced as she stepped off the small shuttle, the red dust of the frontier planet swirling around her boots. The colony was a far cry from the busy city she had grown up in. Here, the air smelled of pine and wood, and the land stretched wide, untouched by civilization's hand. A place for new beginnings. She had left Earth behind, hoping to find a fresh start. The decision wasn't an easy one, but Martha knew it was the only way. She was tired of the whispers in town, the cruel words behind her back.
Always about her size.
Too big, they said. Not the right kind of woman. But she had never let their words take root in her heart. No, Martha wasn't going to let anyone define her. Not anymore. The journey had been long, and the shuttle ride had only added to her anxiety. She had placed her ad as a mail-order bride, hoping to find someone who would see beyond her size, someone who would appreciate her for who she was. As Martha made her way down the dirt road to the settlement, she adjusted the shawl around her shoulders. The town had a rough charm to it. Wood cabins lined the streets, smoke rising from chimneys as settlers bustled about their business. It wasn't much, but it was home to people looking for a better life just like her. Her mind raced as she approached the general store where her match was supposed to meet her. His name was Jacob, a rancher in his 40s, someone who had placed an ad himself. The letter he had sent back had been kind, reassuring. "I think you'll be a good match for me," it said. "We'll build a life together." The door to the store creaked open as she stepped inside. Jacob stood near the counter, tall and broad-shouldered, his face weathered from years of hard labor. When he saw her, a faint smile crossed his lips. He didn't look surprised. Perhaps he'd expected someone different, someone who fit the image of a bride he had in mind. "Well, Martha," he said, his voice deep but not unkind. "Glad you made it." "I'm glad to be here," she said, trying to hold her composure. She had imagined this moment for months, but now that it was real, she wasn't sure what to expect. Jacob's eyes scanned her up and down, and for a moment there was silence between them. His smile faded, and a slight frown replaced it. "Martha, I think there's been a misunderstanding," he said, stepping back slightly. "You're a nice enough woman, but, well, you're not exactly what I had in mind." She had braced herself for disappointment, but hearing those words so bluntly spoken felt like a punch to the gut. She forced a smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. I understand," she said softly, her voice betraying the hurt she felt. "I'm sorry," Jacob continued, his voice shifting into something less apologetic, more distant. "It's just, I was hoping for someone smaller, someone a little more delicate. I hope you don't take it the wrong way. It's nothing personal." Martha nodded, though it felt like the ground was slipping beneath her feet. It wasn't the first time she had heard those words, but hearing them now, in this strange place, from a man who had promised a new beginning, it stung more than she expected. "No, I understand," she said, turning toward the door. I'll leave you to it." Before she could step out, Jacob's voice stopped her. "I didn't mean to be harsh," he said, his tone softening. "Look, if you still want to stay, you can. There are other places to stay in town. It's just, I don't think we'll be a good match." Martha nodded again, a lump in her throat threatening to choke her. She had come so far, left behind so much, only to be rejected once again, but she wasn't going to cry. Not here. Not now. She left the store, stepping out into the dusty street. The sun was low in the sky, casting a warm orange glow over the land. Her eyes welled up, but she refused to let the tears fall. Not yet. She walked to the inn where she had made arrangements for a place to stay. It was a modest building, nothing like the grand hotels she had dreamed of when she first set out. But it would have to do. The innkeeper, a woman named Elsie, greeted her with a kind smile and showed her to a small room in the back. "You'll be safe here, Martha," Elsie said, her voice gentle. "It's not much, but it's home for now." As the door closed behind her, she sank onto the small bed, her thoughts a whirlwind. Rejected again. She had hoped for something different, something better, but it seemed the world was determined to remind her of her size and the way it set her apart. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and pushed the tears back down. She wasn't going to let this define her. She had made it this far, and she would make it further. There had to be more to life than this, and she was determined to find it. Over the next few days, Martha kept to herself. She spent her time working at the inn, cleaning, and helping with the kitchen. The work wasn't hard, but the loneliness was a constant companion. The town was small and the people were polite, but no one seemed to really notice her. It was as though the rejection by Jacob had cast a shadow over her presence. Still, she kept going. She had no other choice. One afternoon, as she was sweeping the porch outside the inn, she noticed a tall man walking down the dusty street. He had a rugged, quiet air about him, and his clothes were worn from hard work. He wasn't dressed like the other townsfolk. No, this man was different. His boots were scuffed, his shirt rolled up to his elbows, and a long coat hung loosely from his broad shoulders. Martha paused, her broom still in her hands, watching as the man made his way toward the inn. He didn't look her way, his eyes fixed straight ahead. There was something in the way he moved that made him stand out. A confidence that wasn't boastful, just steady and unyielding. He was a man who had spent years working the land and would continue to do so without complaint. As he passed, their eyes met for a brief moment. He gave her a slight nod, and she returned it with a small smile. He didn't stop to talk, and Martha didn't expect him to. It wasn't uncommon for people to keep to themselves in a town like this. Later that evening, as she was cleaning up after dinner, the same man entered the inn. He removed his wide-brimmed hat, revealing dark, messy hair and a face weathered by the sun. His green eyes scanned the room briefly before landing on her. "Evening," he said, his voice low and smooth. "Evening," Martha replied, her voice soft, unsure of what to say next. The man walked up to the counter where she stood and leaned slightly forward, his hands resting on the edge of the wood. "I hear you're new here," he said. Martha nodded. "Just arrived a few days ago. Jacob's girl, huh?" he asked. Martha flinched at the mention of Jacob, the man who had turned her away, but she held her ground. "Yes, but I don't think he saw me the way I'd hoped," she said quietly, trying not to let the bitterness seep into her voice. The man's expression softened. "I'm sorry to hear that. Not everyone is wise enough to see what's right in front of them." Martha's gaze lifted slightly to meet his. "Thank you. I thought I was just being too hopeful." "I don't think that's the case," he said with a quiet sincerity. "Sometimes people don't know what they need until it's too late." Martha wasn't sure how to respond to that, so she simply nodded. There was something about his words that made her feel understood. She wasn't sure why, but she felt a strange warmth in her chest. The man continued, his voice thoughtful. "My name's Colton. I work in the woods, cutting timber. You probably won't see me much around here." "Nice to meet you, Colton," she replied, still unsure about the interaction, but feeling oddly comfortable. "I'm Martha." Colton looked around the inn, as if weighing something in his mind. "You're new to this life, aren't you?" "Yeah," Martha said with a small laugh. "It's a lot different than what I'm used to, but I think I can handle it." "I'm sure you can," Colton said, his tone steady. He paused before adding, "I've seen your kind before, though. You're tougher than people think." Martha wasn't sure what he meant by that, but there was something in the way he said it that made her feel a little more hopeful. Colton stood there for a moment, as if considering something. Then he stepped back and placed a coin on the counter. "I'll take a room for the night." Martha grabbed the key, her hand brushing his for a brief second as she passed it over. The contact was almost electric, though she quickly dismissed the thought. She was still processing the unexpected kindness in his words. Colton took the key without a word and headed toward the stairs. As he climbed, he turned and looked down at her. "I'll be out in the morning to chop wood, if you need anything." "Thank you, I'll keep that in mind," she said, watching him disappear up the stairs. That night, Martha lay in bed, her thoughts racing. She had never met someone like Colton. He was quiet, sure, but there was an honesty in his eyes that made her feel like he wasn't judging her. Unlike Jacob, who had been quick to dismiss her, Colton didn't seem to care about what the town thought. He saw something in her, something deeper than her size or her past. The next morning, just as promised, Colton was outside chopping wood near the inn. Martha watched from the window, her breath fogging up the glass as she saw him work. His muscles rippled with each swing of the axe, and there was a rhythm to his movements, a steady, practiced grace that drew her attention. She stepped outside, watching him for a moment before gathering the courage to approach. Colton glanced up as he saw her, his face softening into a quiet smile. "Morning," he greeted, wiping sweat from his brow. "Morning," Martha replied, feeling her heart race. She wasn't sure why, but something about the way he looked at her made her feel more alive. "How's the work going?" "Just getting started," he said with a small chuckle. "Care to join me? I'm not sure I could keep up with you." Colton raised an eyebrow. "I don't think you'd need to keep up. I'm sure you've got your own ways of getting things done." Martha smiled, feeling a bit braver than before. She watched as he worked, not just with admiration, but with a sense of respect. There was something in the way Colton carried himself that made her want to try harder, do better, not for anyone else, but for herself. She realized that maybe this was the start of something she hadn't even known she needed. "I might just take you up on that offer, Colton," she said, her voice steady. "Good," he said with a smile, his eyes lighting up. "Let's see what you're made of." And with that, the two of them worked together in the morning sun, the bond between them growing stronger with every swing of the axe. Neither of them knew what the future would hold, but for the first time, Martha felt like maybe, just maybe, she had found a place where she truly belonged. The days turned into weeks, and the town slowly began to feel more like home. Martha had settled into a routine, waking early to help with breakfast at the inn and taking care of the few guests who passed through. The work was steady, and though it wasn't glamorous, it kept her busy. More and more she found herself thinking about Colton. His quiet strength, the way he never judged her, the kindness he had shown her. It was all so different from the people she had known before. Most mornings Colton was already at work when she woke up, his axe ringing out in the cool morning air. The sound of it became a strange kind of comfort, a reminder that life was moving forward. One afternoon, as she was cleaning the kitchen, the door opened with a soft creak, and Colton walked in. His shirt was damp with sweat, his boots heavy with the mud from the trail. He looked tired, but his eyes held the same quiet intensity that had drawn her to him from the start. "Afternoon," he greeted her, leaning against the doorframe. "Afternoon," she replied, wiping her hands on her apron. "Busy day?" "Always is, but it's good work." "I'm glad you're here," Martha said before she could stop herself. The words slipped out easily, and for a moment she felt her face warm. "I mean, it's nice to have someone around who doesn't judge." Colton's eyes softened as he pushed away from the door and walked toward her. "I don't judge anyone, Martha."
You don't need to worry about that.
Martha smiled faintly, grateful for his understanding. "I appreciate that." For the next few hours, they talked as Colton helped with odd jobs around the inn. He repaired a window latch, swept the porch, and even chopped some firewood, though there was already enough stacked up outside. All the while, Martha felt a strange sense of peace. She didn't have to worry about what Colton thought of her. He didn't care about her size or the past that haunted her. He simply saw her for who she was, and that made all the difference. By evening, Colton had finished his work and was ready to leave. But before he did, he stopped in the doorway, glancing over his shoulder. "Meet me at the river tomorrow afternoon," he said quietly. "I want to show you something." Martha blinked in surprise. "The river?" Colton nodded, his eyes unreadable. "You'll see. It's nothing big, just something I think you'll like." Martha watched him as he disappeared into the fading light, her heart racing. What did he mean by that? Why did he want to show her something? She couldn't help but feel a flutter of excitement at the thought of spending more time with him. The next day, after finishing her chores, Martha made her way to the river as Colton had asked. The water flowed smoothly through the trees, glistening under the afternoon sun. The air was warm, and the scent of pine filled her lungs. She had walked this path before, but something about it felt different today. She waited by the water, feeling a little unsure of what to expect. The sound of the river flowing was calming, but her mind raced with thoughts of Colton. She wasn't sure what had drawn her to him, his quiet confidence, his kindness, or the way he made her feel accepted, even when others didn't. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, she saw Colton walking toward her through the trees. He had a small bundle of blankets slung over his shoulder and a look of quiet determination on his face. "Martha?" he greeted, his voice soft but steady. "I'm glad you came." "I wasn't sure what to expect," she admitted, her heart pounding in her chest, "but I'm glad to be here." Colton smiled, a genuine warmth in his eyes. "Follow me." Colton spread out the blankets on the ground and gestured for her to sit. "I come to when I need to clear my head," he said, sitting beside her. "It's quiet, peaceful. I thought you might like it." Martha sat down, taking in the surroundings. The clearing was beautiful. Wild flowers dotted the edges, and the sound of the river was like music to her ears. She could feel the tension in her body slowly start to ease. "I can see why you like it here," she said, her voice soft. "It's perfect." They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, just watching the water flow by. Martha could feel the closeness between them, an unspoken bond that had been growing between them over the past few weeks. It wasn't just the work they had done together or the moments they had shared. It was something deeper. Something that neither of them had said out loud, but both could feel. Finally, Colton broke the silence. "I've been thinking, Martha," he began, his voice serious, "about us." Us?" Colton nodded, his gaze intense. "I know we haven't known each other long, but there's something about you that feels right. Something that's hard to explain. I don't want to just let it slip away." Martha's breath caught in her throat. Was he saying what she thought he was saying? "I don't want to make any promises I can't keep," Colton continued, "but I think we could have something good, if you want it." This was what she had hoped for, what she had dreamed of when she first arrived. She had longed for someone who would see her for who she was, without judgment, and Colton was offering that to her. "I want it," she whispered, her voice full of feeling. "I really do." Colton reached for her hand, his grip warm and steady. "Then we'll see where it goes. Together." For the first time in a long while, Martha felt the weight of her past begin to lift. With Colton by her side, she could face whatever challenges the future held. He had shown her what it meant to be accepted, to be loved not for what she looked like, but for who she truly was. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft glow over the river, Martha leaned her head against Colton's shoulder. She wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time she felt hopeful. With him, everything seemed possible. The next few weeks passed by in a blur. Martha and Colton grew closer each day, their bond strengthening with every shared moment. There was a quiet peace between them, a sense of understanding that neither had experienced before. Colton would arrive at the inn early in the morning, carrying his tools and a quiet smile, and together they would work on the small tasks that needed doing. In the evenings after the sun had set, they would sit by the fire, talking about their pasts and dreams for the future. Martha had always felt like an outsider, never quite fitting in, no matter where she went. But with Colton, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. It wasn't just the way he looked at her, it was the way he made her feel. He saw her strength, her resilience, and never once did he make her feel like she wasn't enough. One afternoon, as they sat by the fire after a long day of work, Martha looked up at Colton. "I've never felt this way before," she admitted, her voice soft but steady. "I never thought I would find someone who would see me for who I am." Colton turned to her, his eyes soft and steady, the firelight reflecting in them. "You're more than what you see in the mirror, Martha. I've always known that." Martha smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek before she could stop it. "You've made me feel like I belong, Colton. I've spent so much of my life feeling like I was too much or not enough. But with you, I feel like I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be." Colton reached over, gently wiping the tear from her cheek. "You are exactly who you're supposed to be," he said, "and I'm lucky to be here with you." Martha's heart swelled with emotion, and for the first time in her life, she felt truly seen. She had always doubted herself, doubted her worth. But now, with Colton, she knew that she had found someone who didn't just accept her, but valued her for everything she was. Their days continued in much the same way. Work, laughter, quiet moments shared between them, and with each passing day, Martha's feelings for Colton deepened. She had once thought that love was something unattainable, something that only existed in stories, but now she knew it was real. Love was something that grew over time, something built on trust, understanding, and shared moments. One evening after a long day of chopping wood, Colton invited Martha to join him on a walk through the woods. The sun was setting, casting a golden light over the trees, and the air was cool with the promise of nightfall. They walked side by side, not needing to speak much, the silence between them comfortable and easy. After a while, Colton stopped and turned to her, his expression serious but gentle. "Martha, I've been thinking a lot about the future," he began, "and I want to ask you something." Martha looked up at him, her heart racing. "What is it?" "I want to build a life with you," he said, his voice steady. "I want you by my side every day. I want to take care of you, and I want you to take care of me. I know we haven't known each other long, but in my heart, I feel like this is right. I feel like you're the one I've been waiting for." Martha's breath caught in her throat, her heart raced, and her mind spun. She had never imagined a future like this, but now, standing in front of Colton, she realized it was everything she had ever wanted. "I want that too," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I want to build a life with you, Colton. I want to see where this goes." Colton's face broke into a smile, his eyes lighting up. "You're sure?" Martha nodded, her heart swelling. "I'm sure." They stood there for a moment, their hands clasped tightly together, their hearts beating in time. In that moment, the world seemed to fall away. There was no past, no doubts, no fears. There was only the two of them, standing on the edge of something new, something beautiful. As the days passed, Martha and Colton began to make plans for their future. They would build a home together, a small cabin nestled near the edge of the forest where they could start their life anew. They would work side by side, hand in hand, building something that was theirs, something that would stand the test of time. One evening, after they had finished building the foundation for their new home, Colton looked at Martha, his eyes full of love. "This is just the beginning, you know," he said. "We've got a long road ahead of us, but I'm ready for it. As long as I'm with you." Martha smiled, her heart full. "I'm ready too," she said. "As long as we're together, nothing else matters." Together they stood in the quiet of the evening, looking out at the world they would build together. It wasn't going to be easy. There would be challenges ahead, and there would be moments of doubt. But Martha knew that with Colton by her side, she could face anything. He had shown her what true love was, love that didn't judge, love that accepted, love that built something strong from the ground up. And for the first time in her life, Martha knew that she had found her place in the world, not because of what others saw in her, but because of what she saw in herself. With Colton, she had found the courage to believe in herself, and in the love that was growing between them. As the stars began to appear in the sky, Colton pulled Martha close, wrapping his arms around her. She rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. In that moment, everything was right. They were building something new together, something beautiful. And with Colton by her side, Martha knew that the future held nothing but endless possibilities.